The man who came to kill our king ended up becoming his son. I was there. I saw everything. The morning they found him, he was still holding the knife. He was sitting on the floor outside the king's bedroom door, not running, not hiding, just sitting there with a knife in his hand and tears on his face. That is the image I have carried for 50 years. A killer who could not kill, crying in the dark like a child. My name is Lade. I was a young palace boy at the time, the kind nobody looks at. I carried firewood, I swept courtyards, I stayed out of the way. That is the only reason I know this story. Invisible people see everything. King Opaz was the kind of man who made you feel safe just by existing. He had ruled our village for over 20 years. He was not a shouting king, not the type to wave a sword around. He was calm, and that calmness was the most powerful thing about him. When he walked into a room, the noise stopped, not out of fear, out of respect. There is a difference. He had one child. A daughter. Princess Suza. She was maybe 19, 20 at the time. She was not soft the way people expected a princess to be. She had her father's eyes, very still, very watching. She did not laugh easily, but when she did, the whole compound felt it. She was the kind of person that, once you noticed her, you could not stop noticing her. The stranger came in the middle of the farming season when the palace was busy and nobody was paying full attention to the gate. He said he was a healer passing through. He had small leather bags of herbs on him and he spoke well, the kind of talking that makes you trust a person before you have thought about whether you should. His name, he said, was Kofi. He was given a place to sleep in the outer compound with the other travelers. Nothing unusual. We had people passing through all the time. But I noticed him the second day. Not because he did anything wrong. Because he did nothing wrong. He was too careful. Too correct. He greeted everyone the right way. He ate what he was given without complaint. He never looked in a direction he was not supposed to look in, except once. I saw him watching Princess Suza cross the courtyard. And I saw him look away very fast, like a man who has caught himself doing something he was not meant to do. On the fourth night I could not sleep. I was near the inner wall when I heard feet moving. Not the heavy feet of guards, the very quiet, placed feet of someone who has practiced not being heard. I pressed into the shadow and watched. It was Kofi. He moved through the compound like he already knew the layout. He went past the guards. 2 of them were slumped asleep in their chairs, which I found out later was because their evening meal had been touched with something. He reached the door of King Opaz's sleeping chamber and he stopped there. He had a knife in his hand. Short. Clean. The kind made for one purpose only. My heart left my body. I am not using that as a saying. I mean I felt it go quiet in my chest. He stood at that door for a long time. He put his hand on the wood. He did not push. He just stood. And then, I do not know why, maybe the ancestors moved him, maybe God, maybe something I have no name for, he turned around. And Princess Suza was standing right behind him. She had come for drinking water, with her cup in her hand. That was it. She could not sleep and she had come to the courtyard for drinking water and she was right there, 2 steps from the man holding the knife. They both froze. He could have done it right then. She was alone. There were no guards. He could have grabbed her, used her to force his way out, done whatever he was sent there to do. I was watching and I could not move, I could not shout, I was completely useless. But he did not do it. He lowered the knife. They stood there looking at each other in the dark. This assassin was a young handsome tall dark-skinned young man and this princess was elegantly beautiful wearing a kind smile, and then he sat down on the ground, just dropped down and sat, and she stood there watching him, and after a moment she sat down too. I do not know what they said. I was too far. But they talked for a very long time, there in the dark, quietly, while everyone slept. And when morning started to come, he was still there, sitting outside the king's door, knife on the ground beside him, crying. Princess Susa went and woke her father. She did not run, did not scream. She walked normally and went and woke King Opaz and brought him to the courtyard. Kofi did not run when he heard the king coming. He stood up, put the knife down on the ground in front of him, the way you put something down when you are surrendering it. King Opaz sent for his chiefs and a town crier announces to the whole village, people assembled in king's palace. Kofi, the assassin, talked for a very long time telling them about his deadly mission to the king's palace. He told King Opaz who sent him, how much he was paid, how he got into the compound, everything. He gave every name. He left nothing out. I found out later what he said about why he stopped. He said he had been paid to kill the king and take the princess to a rival chief in another territory who wanted to use her to control the throne. He had planned it for weeks. He had done jobs like this before. He was good at it. But when he got to that door, he said, something in him refused. He said he had been standing there trying to make himself push it open and he could not. And then when he turned and saw Princess Susa standing there, he said it felt like getting caught by God personally. He said he sat down because his legs just stopped working. He told King Opaz that he deserved to die and that he was not asking for mercy. He was just making sure the king knew what was coming for him from outside before it came again. King Opaz did not execute him. People in the village were angry about this. There was a lot of noise. A man came to kill the king and the king let him live. People said King Opaz had gone soft, that he was a fool, that he was putting everyone in danger. But Opaz kept him. He put Kofi in a small room inside the palace and had him watch. And over the following months, Kofi was useful. Every name he gave, every plan he revealed, was accurate. 2 attacks were stopped because of his information. One man who had been close to the king for years turned out to be part of it. Kofi named him too, even though that man had treated him well. He held nothing back, and all this time, Princess Susa came to talk to him. Every day. At first I thought it was the king's idea, to keep Kofi calm, to keep him talking. But I watched them through the years and it was not that. She genuinely came. She brought him food sometimes. They talked about things that had nothing to do with politics or plots. Kofi fell in love with the princess. He promised her never to go back to his old life, and Princess Susa loved him too. She was illuminated with warm, soft golden firelight. This creates a strong emotional contrast between danger and innocence. It took 3 years of him being inside that palace, under a closed watch, useful, present. And then King Opaz called him before the whole compound and said something that made every elder there go completely silent. He said, "This man came here to end my line. Instead he protected it. I am calling him my son." Kofi and Princess Susa were married that same year. I was there at the wedding. I watched a hired killer become a prince. I watched King Opaz put his own kingly regalia around the shoulders of the man who had stood outside his door with a knife. I watched Princess Susa look at Kofi the way people only look at someone when they are very convinced, with the eyes and heart of love. Wow! King Opaz died when I was an old man. Princess Susa and Kofi ruled after him. They had children and were happily married. If you believe love can transform even the hardest hearts, type "Love Wins" in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more powerful African love tales.